Welcome to the Swamp. Finally, a dwarven survival game, and one based off Lord of the Rings no less. This game has been one of my most anticipated games. Dwarves, survival, sandbox, and roleplay elements. Hell yeah! So does it live up to the hype that has been generated around this title, or did it crumble and fall under their namesake? Let's find out. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. I've played this for well over 30 hours, and let's say I spent an entire day playing this game right after it launched. I've not yet finished the game as of yet, as the game is way too large to finish within 30 hours of play, though I have gotten far enough to get a feel of it and rate the game based on what I've seen. Return to Moria is a game set in the 4th age of Lord of the Rings universe, where Sauron has already been defeated, Frodo has sailed off with the elves, and whoever is left from the Fellowship find new goals in life. That is what Gimli sets out to do. Now an old dwarf, he calls for all dwarves to join him in reclaiming the home of his cousin in Moria. But not all is as seen, as you and many friends who join manage to find yourselves inside, separated from the rest of your kind. You need to delve in and find out why the doors are locked, as well as make your way out. This game seems to require a slightly above average computer, and I don't blame them. There are no loading screens in the world, so a lot of it is loaded in at the same time, including a lot of the nodes and interactables. Now that doesn't mean the whole map is loaded, and I have something to say on that later on in the bugs section. But for now, no, your computer might overheat a little bit.
They are so alike in voice and appearance that they're often mistaken for dwarf men. It's the beards.
The character creation is decent enough. There is a wide selection of options to choose from. You can even mix and match gender options, so female dwarves with beards are confirmed. Don't fret, you can edit your dwarf at any time in the main menu selection screen, and thankfully the game uses the same system as Valheim, where you can take several characters, join any saved world with any character. Anything the character has on them at the moment will get transferred over, which means, yeah, you can cheese things that way, but you also don't have to get rid of your character to join a friend's world. The character creation is going to get a 5 out of 5. I don't see anything wrong with it, and it offers a decent selection as well as a good built-in system around it for players.
Has given rise to the belief that there are no dwarf women, and that dwarfs just spring out of holes in the ground.
So who at Epic Games had to sell their soul to get exclusive rights to this game?
I don't know. The game starts off with 2 cutscenes, technically 3 if you count the one that plays before the main menu, but from the moment you start up a new world with new characters, you are greeted first by a third-person oriented camera that follows Gimli and others talking about how to get in. Right after that, it moves to the next cutscene, where it's first person and you are helping to blast through the mountain. Now in that cutscene, something happens, and you as well as your friends fall through the floor and end up below into an old dwarven living quarter. This is the first zone of the game and offers the player their tutorial, as well as entry-level content to teach the player how the game works. You also have your own Valheim Raven to pop up every so often to join you during larger story moments as you progress. In this first area of the game, you won't find many enemies. Similar to the forest, the goblins you might find in the first few days are only scouts. They will run from you on first sight. Eventually you'll find wolves that will attack you, and then after several in-game days, now you have actual goblins attacking every so often. It is a slow build-up to help you get used to your surroundings before really kicking in. The start of the game I'm going to give a 5 out of 5. It really helps orient the player to get ready for the rest of the game without being too harsh, and also teaching the player the necessities and fundamentals.
And they call it a mine. A mine!
The exploration of the game is interesting. So the game map itself consists of 4 main sections of the mountain. Within those sections, you will find 2 to 4 various biomes within. In every biome or so, you unlock new levels of tier gear that progress you. I would say I am at the beginning of the 3rd major section, at least as of writing this review, which is called Darrow Dwelf. It's basically the area of the mountain you see within Fellowship of the Ring, where they are attacked by orcs. You also have areas like the Mines of Moria, the Elven Quarters, a large mushroom area with bioluminescence, and a shit ton of bats. My fucking god, I hate these goddamn bats in this game. From there, the map itself consists of rooms which are interconnected to each other. Larger rooms, which are important story progression zones, will always be the same, such as the Elven Quarter, but between the major lore rooms, you will have smaller rooms that you have to dig through to explore, progress, and harvest resources. These smaller rooms will always be randomly generated every save you create, so my single player world is different from the one that I play with my friends. Each biome has unique resources that they will have. Most of these will be relevant for a long time before you no longer require it as often, so returning to older areas can be beneficial, for food items, for specialized resources like elven wood, and many others. The only downside to the map design is it's pretty linear. From the start to the end, the main path is your linear line that you need to follow. Now, there are occasional branches that you can skew off and explore. Sometimes this is good, as you can find not only more resources to use, but you can also find broken statues to repair to unlock crafting recipes. You can find orc camps and towns to attack and raid for rare items and collectibles. There are several types of collectibles within the biomes themselves that unlock recipes and items for that level of progression, as well as other forms of collectibles for long-term progression items that you will find later on. The last thing of this section is the risk of the horde. As you go about doing a variety of things, you will generate noise. The noise builds up over time as you do things. If it reaches a certain point, you will start to notice the screen going a fire red, which warns you to stop what you are doing. If you don't, you will trigger a horde attack. This will be several waves of enemies, both strong and easy, that will attack you no matter where you are. So on top of the many environmental hazards like poison mushrooms, shadow pools, and such, you also have to watch out for the actions you perform or the risk of the wrath of the horde. Now, all of that being said, I'm going to rate the exploration a 4 out of 5. I dropped it a point because of the linearity. Yeah, you can branch out a bit, but those branches eventually end. So if you are dedicated to reaching just the end, it's not worth going down those paths. The survival is end death, but also a bit annoying in this game. From a food bar to an energy bar, you have to watch your sound generation and several other things. Now on paper that doesn't sound too bad, however the stats don't last that long. While you can sate your hunger bar with some snacks, your energy bar at the start of the game can't be solved as easily. And while I'll talk more about this in the PvE section, your item durability, mainly your armor, is for shit. There are so many reasons you will need to always return home and rest, eat, repair. But many times it's only after progressing 1 or 2 new rooms. Then you'll need to return again. It's so soon and happens so often. So while I like managing of various stats, there's no way to help mitigate these numbers. You can't extend your health bar or your energy bar. The better food is from cooking at home, and after you eat, then you travel using the mapstone, you lose a lot of your hunger because of the time that passes when you travel. The food you can bring with you can heal you, which is nice, but the armor durability, again, is for absolute shit. Even with the tier 2 or tier 3 armor, fighting against enemies that are about your level or a bit below, they can slap you 2 or 3 times and your armor is just gone. So you will have to return to repair again. Even if you create small camps in each biome for the purposes of sleeping and repair, it's still annoying that your stats and armor need to be constantly replenished only after a few minutes. Now with the rant over, I'm going to rate the survival a 3.5 out of 5, because there is an element of danger around every corner, from scouting parties to horde attacks, even watching your food, rest, and others, though it can still get very annoying to run back and forth after minor progression, because your armor is as thin as tissue paper, and your energy runs out really fast. The building of your home is a bit scuffed in this game. There are very few decorational items, and the building system is not as easy to use, nor is it expanse. You have to build a hearth, and all of your building pieces must remain within the hearth's distance. Now you can add more hearths to the area to expand it, or you could build better hearths to have a defaulted larger area to build. But even then, you can only face your building items in 4 directions, which absolutely sucks when you need to place a platform while progressing, as it will cause the platform to sometimes go diagonal compared to the environment layout, and you can't fix it. The buildings do also have a support system, so if you lose support, the building will crumble. It's not really worth building at home from scratch, as it's much easier to use a pre-made building and repair it as well as build it up. Now, even if you place down multiple hearths, that doesn't stop spawning within that area. Now, enemies don't spawn inside of buildings, at least pre-made ones, but I have a whole section outside of my home that is walled off, and I've played several hearths down. Bears will still spawn, as well as orcs inside of that area on occasion, so don't expect a box spawning. There is also a base defense system. I don't know what triggers it exactly, as it happens completely randomly, and will target the camp that you are nearest to. The enemies will prioritize doors as well as workbenches, but will target you if you are close enough. The location also doesn't matter to the enemy. As you progress, enemies you find in later zones can come back to haunt you in earlier zones to attack you, though not always. The base raids can also happen while you are in travel between map stones, as that's happened to me before a couple of times. Of course, if you do get a raid of lower level goblins, you can have higher grade material for your walls, so you can completely ignore them and just fix up what few scratches they leave behind on your doors. Now, the crafting is very good. You have a few workbenches to make things from, nothing crazy like Conan Exiles, but a decent in selection. Now, what I find the best system is that when you craft, the benches will draw all sources within the hearth's area. You could build pallets of wood, ore, and ingots, chests full of other resources. They can even be on the other side of the hearth area, and the furnace and workbenches can still reach it all and pull items from them. Even better, even if you do add to the building zone with more hearths, they can still add on to the first one. So if you place a pallet within another hearth zone, as long as it's connected or overlapping the origin of your workbench, it will still pull from that as well. Farming is straightforward. You need to either find or make a farming plot, place seeds in it, and wait. No need to care for them. Now, the majority of food items do require a light source. You can find them easily in various zones. Using the meter at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen will help you determine if you are in a light or a dark zone. But also the farming plot itself will tell you if there's light or darkness. Some items like mushrooms will require darkness, so it is beneficial to have multiple plots both in light and dark. Once you place them, one item will grow per in-game day up to 4. It's just a waiting game at that point. Not all items can be farmed, so make sure you know where you could find them again and check back in a couple of days, as unlike ores and rocks, all plant items as well as bird feathers and eggs will respawn. Now then, this whole section I'm going to rate a 3.5 out of 5. I dropped it a bit because of the building system is just complete garbage in my opinion. The only thing that really saves the score is the good crafting system and easy farming.
Let them come. There is one dwarf yet in Moria who still draws breath.
The PvE is fairly decent. While not super expansive, it works for what it is, and I don't have many complaints about it. The progression of your characters is not tied to skill points or levels. Your stats are all dependent on your gear and weapons. You can progress your items in every zone you visit with various tiers of strength. The majority of recipes you find will be from orc chests, rebuilding statues, and so on. You can fight with ranged weapons, one-handed ones, shields, two-handed weapons, like greatswords and spears, but you can also throw anything in your hand, but it's not really worth it unless you are desperate. You can block attacks with your own weapon or a shield, and you can also dodge out of the way of attacks. Well, I said I didn't have too many complaints a moment ago. That's really with only how it feels to fight in terms of reaction time and so. I do have one complaint, which is the durability of the armor, which is for shit. I've already talked about this a little bit, but I'm gonna say it again here. Even at tier 3 armor, after a few strikes, your armor is just gone, and you have to keep constantly repairing. And if you have no armor, the higher level enemies are going to just absolutely destroy you. So you need to keep your armor up at all times, which makes blocking and dodging mandatory. Your armor's purpose is only to serve as a mistake saver for at least a few hits. One of the biggest pet peeves of survival games is when enemies always spawn in the same place every time. Luckily, that is not the case here, at least most of the time. In major story rooms that share across all maps, you will always find enemy camps and bosses in those rooms, though the random patrolling enemies will always be randomly generated. In other rooms you can explore through, enemies can come and go as they please. They can patrol hallways, stand lookout. You can come across mini-bosses on occasion such as bears and trolls, with actual world bosses being across the map in various story locations. You could dye your armor and enchant your weapons to do extra damage with elemental magic, even turning your weapons into an Orcbane weapon which glow, or at least make the sound of glowing when orcs and goblins are nearby, similar to Frodo and Bilbo's sword Sting. I already mentioned the horde attacks and base defense systems, so let's move on to scoring this section, which I think I will give a 4 out of 5. Besides my armor durability nitpick, it's decent enough for what you need. There is no PvP from what I've seen. There's also no friendly fire, as it's meant to be a teamwork game, dwarves against orcs. So I'm gonna skip this section. The story delivers itself to you in several ways. From the main intro cinematic to finding letters and items, you also have the friendly Valheim Raven to talk to you every step of the way. Your character will speak often as to fill you in on their knowledge of whatever it is you come across. At times, you could find signs that the Fellowship had passed through there during their travels. So from the combinations of both voice acting sections to reading descriptions and the intro cutscenes, I'll go ahead and rate the section a 5 out of 5.
You from our camp?
Thank the winds. I am Arik, son of Arak. Yours is the only friendly face here.
I'll be honest, even though I've put so many hours into this game, I've not finished it yet. I'm still playing and will continue to play, though for now, I will say it's a decent enough story, and don't worry, it's been confirmed that there is no Balrog, so for those of you that thought that they would add one, even though it had already been defeated in the books/movie, it's not the main villain of the story. However, there is still a big, bad, large villain to defeat, so not all hope is lost. For now, I am not going to rate this section for the fact that I have not completed the full story. I feel I would need another 10 to 20 more hours to finish, as there is still so much, as well as a whole nother large section I've yet to been to. For once, a survival game has come out as a fully fleshed out game and not in early access. It doesn't feel like a beta either, which is always a good thing. Now, while this game is in its 1.0 launch state, it has been confirmed by the developers that there is at least a whole year of post-launch content to add for more adventures, mini-stories, more collectibles, as well as fixing any issues people would have run across like bugs and tuning. So this direction I'm going to rate a 5 out of 5 due to the fact that we have a fully fleshed out game as well as a whole roadmap of post-launch content confirmed for the future, at least for the next year. This game is polished fairly well, however I did encounter some issues, the biggest one being some loading issues, especially the farther you go into the mines. The various areas had trouble loading in. A wall with dots will appear to show you cannot pass while the map is unavailable. It took anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes for it to load in and allow me to pass through. While it didn't happen every time, it happened often enough to bother me. Another thing is that I noticed that the game did cause my computer to overheat. I could feel it burning my leg next to me. Luckily, nothing happened beyond that. I only had one crash, though I don't really know the cause for it, as it just kinda happened while I was walking around. There are a few enemies that will clip through the walls and floors so often, but it didn't happen too much to really bother me. And the last issue I have with this game is the randomly generated world, as it can lead to the issue of not as many resources and rare items spawning. For example, resin, which is a needed item, you can only find it in the mushroom biome. I only found it within 1 or 2 rooms out of like 20 or 30. I explored every area of that biome and only found a few spawn points. Another example is that every biome you can find family shrines where you can place carvings to honor them. The very first area of my world, I explored every single room available to me, and I am missing one carving. It just doesn't exist. Meanwhile, on the other world where my friends play on, we found more than enough to finish the shrine, so the randomness of the resources can be an issue for your playthrough. Now, even with the issues I listed, the game still feels very good and playable, so I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. My overall score for The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is going to be a 4.3 out of 5. While it has a few mild issues, the game is very polished and fun as hell to play with tons of hours to be put into the game, as well as a load of replayability. The future of the game with the content updates is also a very good thing. I recommend this game for anyone who wanted to try it out, even if that does mean you need to buy it on the Epic Game Store, as it's not on Steam. Though I hope you enjoyed my review, and make sure to like and subscribe for more survival game reviews, and I'll see you next time. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel, as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out. What was that? Oh, hi. What the fuck is that, like, feminine voice?
It might have been me. Because
Are you Beardy?
No, it's me.
Yeah, that's what's Miles.
Beardy, fucking idiot.
4 iron bars, 10 coins, 1 complex ration, lembas, and 6 coal.
Lembas bread!
Yeah. Put it all in this chest.
We got lembas bread and, oh look, more lembas bread.